Good evening, everybody. Oh, I forgot to share out. I forgot to share out. I stink. Let me share this out real fast. Let me share this out real fast. I promised on. Let's see. Okay, share this out here. Copy, post, and also let me share out on Google. Oh, excuse me, on YouTube. Create post. Okay. That's not nice. That's not nice. Do I say that to you? Do I say that to you? Do I throw that at you? That is my press pass I'm wearing. There you go. There you go. All right. Now, full disclosure, Jersey Transit, which is what I usually take to get into the city, is on strike, which means I took the bus to get in, which means I got there late today. And I did. I missed like the first hour of testimony, which was very frustrating. It was very frustrating. So what I'm going to do is this. For that part of it, I'm going to go through Intercity Press, and I'll tell you how this translated into what I saw when I got there, and the tail end of Dawn Richard's testimony. Dawn Richard started testifying on Friday afternoon, and she was carried over through the weekend. So Dawn Richard is a musician who worked with Diddy she was working on something called Dirty Money, something like that. I don't know. Just DDM. Yeah, there you go. So that's what was happening with that. So I'm going to start with Intercity Press, and then I'll pick up where I get into my own stuff. And I'll also share with you what the tone just comes across as, so you can understand why it is that I think that the defense actually did a good job with Dawn Richard, even though I saw very little of their work. I'll explain that more in detail. So it starts with all rise. Judge Subramanian, on the defense application regarding Dawn Richard, Ms. Garrigo's opening statement opened the door to this testimony. As to Mr. James, the testimony will be inadmissible absent more. So we did see James come on at the very end today. As I argued in my letter, Subramanian just ruled orally on letters that are not in the docket, although they're clearly judicial documents. And he's not happy about that in the city press. He ends up winning on that later. Same brand testimony that was objected to on Friday. Does government expect Ms. Richard to say what she heard and saw? Yes, that would be permissible, just like testimony in the recording studio. So here's the issue. Which I touched on in a short earlier today, which is, if you're the government, what you want to get the jury to hate Diddy and share as many terrible stories of him being an abusive son of a gun as you possibly can. They're not allowed to do that because he's not charged with assault. So you now, to the extent he engages in assaults to further RICO, it could be admissible. This is why RICO is used to win cases. This is something I've heard Dershowitz say, that he would tell his law school students. You charge the specific crime that you want to get him on, but you charge RICO also, because by charging RICO, enables you to tell a fuller story, which makes it more likely you'll get a conviction on the underlying charge. So when they start telling everyone about assaults that he engaged in, he's hitting a chef, he's hitting someone else, they just start thinking, we hate this guy. And the jury's mind, more often than not, will follow their heart. Because you can always find a basis to convict or acquit if you're so inclined. So winning the heart of the jury will invariably lead to winning their mind. It's very rare that that's not the case, which is why if you're a prosecutor, you want to get them to hate him, and you want to basically throw as much out there to get them to hate him, and then figure they'll find a legal justification to convict him, even if there's very thin charges. And it works the same in reverse. If you're a defense counsel, you want to get them to love your client and resent or hate the government, if that would be even better, and they will invariably acquit. That's essentially, but none of that is permissible because all of that is just prejudice in the jury, either against or for the defendant. And you're not allowed to admit evidence that's more prejudicial than probative. What does that mean? That if it's more likely to inciting their heart and not really probing into the heart of the elements of the crime that it's alleged or defense of those charges. In that case, that's just prejudice, and the law recognizes that this is what the prosecution invariably is going to be looking to do, and the defense will be looking to take the exact opposite approach, and that's where it becomes incumbent upon the judge to try and decide what is admissible and what is not. Now, we're trying to figure out in the context of this particular case, what should be admissible, what should not be admissible. So you have the sex trafficking charges. Okay, so you can say anything that's affecting Cassie directly that we have witnesses to. You would think that that likely should come in. Although if he hits her over breakfast, he gets mad about breakfast. If there were no RICO charges, just put aside RICO for a second. And all you have is just the trafficking charges. And trafficking, let's think about what that is. Trafficking is under 18 U.S.C. 1591, is that you're looking to, he was looking to coerce her to engage in commercial sex. Compel her, coerce her, force her to engage in commercial sex. Sex for money. Not that she's getting paid for it, but that you're looking to push her into having sex with these people who are being paid money to engage her. So if you're looking at it from this perspective, ask yourself, if people are having breakfast and he comes out and whops her, he's like, I can't believe you over salted the eggs, bam. Is that really working toward he's trying to compel her to engage in sex with strangers? It's a little bit thin. It's a little bit thin. And the judge has said, that's okay. I'm going to let that in. And the reason you can say that and sort of makes sense is like he's sort of making her pliable, putting Cassie in fear that if I don't do what he wants, he's going to wallop me. So that kind of makes sense, right? You can sort of see how that's logical. But when you start getting to like, okay, now he's not punching Cassie, he's punching the chef in front of Cassie. So that could be a way of intimidating her. But that's really more of a stretch, right? I think you can understand that. And if it's not an eyewitness to the chef being punched, but it's just someone hearing, hey, did he punch the chef? Now it's getting like even more. Now you're dealing with hearsay issues. You're dealing with is it even having a direct impact on her? So the RICO charges make it more likely that can be brought in. A little bit more likely. But that's where we're going to see this battle. That is, look, you're not trying to actually convince the jury that something bad happened to Cassie, that this was a way of him accomplishing this criminal activity. You just want the jury to hear this story so that they hate the guy. That's essentially the battle that we should expect to see from between the state and the prosecution as this goes on. The broader the categories of Diddy nightmare stories that he allows in, the more it comes across like he's hoping for a conviction, right? I mean, because you would think that if he's not looking to inflame the jury, he'd be like, I'm not letting that come in. So, and it is somewhat of a judgment call from the judge, and it's could be reversible error if he really steps out of bounds and says, something that has nothing to do with Cassie he allows in there. That could be reversible error. But the judges tend to be given very broad discretion in how they conduct trials. So you would need to establish that was a really just crazy that it was let in there. All right. So as we move forward here, so the assistant U.S. attorney is Lawgic, says personal assistants were there with Mr. Combs 20 hours a day. Their testimony is admissible because they're eyewitnesses. Judge says, my concern is that there are other ways to get this evidence in. What Mr. James would add is just the postscript. In other words, the claims about, because he's going to be testifying about that he heard that a chef got beaten. Agniflio is the defense counsel. I think he's the lead defense counsel on the David James issue. This defeats the whole purpose of the hearsay objection. The government is arguing that it's all admissible because the job descriptions are so vague. We contend these are personal matters. So they spent a great deal of time going into what his job description was. We're going to see later on that, and it's likely because of this, that the prosecution spends a great deal of time spelling out all the different hats that David James, as Diddy's personal assistant, has to wear. And it's a little bit confusing, likely, for the jury. Why are we hearing such detail about this guy's life? And probably it's because of this, that they want to say that he's got these different hats and he has this broad authority, and that's why people are coming and reporting to him about this sort of thing. Let me focus you on the assault of the chef. Mr. James learns from a member of the security detail that Mr. Combs assaulted the chef. Wouldn't that be in the scope of their employments? What? That's not a hearsay exception unless there's a system that it's recorded. To me, when I saw the judge saying this, I was just like, that's a really big stretch by the judge. I don't know what relevance this has to racketeering. So that's a different thing. It's not even hearsay. It's like, how is this relevant? This is becoming sort of bad act free for all. Assault is just not one of the racketeering acts. And I think Agniflio has a really great point here. I really do. Lawgic claims this is relevant to the means and methods of the enterprise. The chef is identified as a victim of forced labor. Really? Chef wasn't paid? Is that a charge there? That there's slavery going on here? Agniflio says, I'm going to defer Miss Westmoreland on the other witness. And she says, Miss Richard claims that Combs assaulted Miss Ventura right in front of her. Those other alleged threats are nowhere near close proximity to alleged assault. So if she saw it, that's one thing. She didn't see it. She just heard about it. She shouldn't be able to testify. She also says we have a distinction between the Danity Kane and the Diddy Dirty Money eras. These are two different projects she was working with Diddy on. As Mr. Pierre telling her, where are you going to go? I don't see how that can be construed as a threat. So the judge says, let me think about it. All right, we have an application from the press. This is Inner City's press. That emails be put on the record. I'm directing to put them together and put them in the docket by next Tuesday, and after that on a weekly basis. So he's like, that's my thing. But why are they going to do it a week later? Why not do it when they're doing it? Why not upload it when they're doing it? It's a good job there by you, Matthew Lee of Inner City Press. All right, here goes. Jury entering. When Mr. Combs told you that people could go missing, how did you interpret it? That people could die. I couldn't believe that this could be the beginning of a journey for us. As Diddy Dirty Money, yes. That, in other words, at the start of that project, he's hearing that Diddy might be killing people. That's not something you're looking for when you're working with a musician. Oh, yeah. What did you observe? He would drag her and kick her and punch her in the mouth. What would prompt these acts of violence? Objection, overruled. When she would speak up for herself? Who in security witnessed these things? D-Rock and Bonds. D-Rock is someone who is regularly described during this trial as someone who is an actual friend. He's one of the main security folks. Bonds is another main security person. So is another. We've heard the names Uncle Paulie. A couple of other names. D-Rock is one who everyone loves. D-Rock. He's married, and everyone's friend. Both Cassie and we're going to hear from Kerry later on, Kerry Morgan, that they both really like D-Rock. When did Ms. Ventura get hit? Where did she get hit? Her knees, her face, all over. Did there come a time when you were in New York for a festival? Yes, in Central Park, because I was asking location, not parts of her body. Doofus. That's the thing. And the residence, what happened? He punched Cassie. She came into the bathroom crying. You could see her upset, like she was hurt. Objection, sustained. because that's calling for speculation. What injuries did you observe? Swollen eye. Why did you remain with Miss Ventura after this incident? I wanted her to feel supported. What's this? Central Park event. They showing a picture. They're both wearing sunglasses. Why'd you wear them? Solidarity. The next assault. Who was there? D-Rock, Capricorn Clark. She's a personal assistant for Diddy. Harvey Pierre, another one. Who was Mr. Pierre? Bad boy answering to Sean Combs. Did they do anything? None of us did anything. No one ever interfered to protect her. Now, this is something that becomes another pattern here. That whenever he's wailing on her, nobody has the cojones to stand up to Puffy. When we drove back to LA, he slapped Cassie in the mouth and told her to shut the F up. How the passengers respond, we stayed silent for the rest of the ride. I asked myself if he did that to someone he supposedly loved, what he'd do to an employee. So I approached Mr. Combs with softness, meaning I was terrified of him. Did you try to intervene in the relationship? No, for my own safety. Did you see Mr. Combs using drugs? Yes, weed, ketamine, Molly, cocaine, opiates. That I never saw. He was not big in the opiates. Cassie was big in the opiates, but he was not. Who bought him the drugs? One Stop. He had it all, including Plan B birth control. Hence the name One Stop. That's why he's called One Stop. What do you think? It's because he doesn't know how to drive? No, he's One Stop. One Stop. Let me make sure I got. FD Man says, I wonder what the Epstein connection will be made, if any. It won't be. I'd be very surprised. Did you see Mr. Combs with guns? Yes, handguns on his lower back. Who else had guns? Security, D-Rock, and Bonds. Okay. This is going to be conflicted by David James, said that they didn't carry guns. What did you do after Bad Boy? Whenever I got momentum, I'd get FaceTime from Diddy. How would you speak to him? Very soft. I'd always call him bro. Why'd you not discuss the abuse you'd seen? I was told not to by Mr. Combs and Harvey Pierre. Mr. Combs? Probably D-Rock is what you mean. When did you speak out? 2024. So she worked with him from between 2004 and 2011. She didn't start speaking out until 13 years later. This is going to be assailed. Part of what's going to be assailed by the defense. I saw Cassie take the stand and tell the truth. Objections, sustained. You can't bolster another witness and say, I saw them and she was telling the truth. I'm sure this was stricken. Did you see Miss Ventura file a civil lawsuit and then file your own? Yes. This makes her look money grubbing, but she's going to get hit on very hard. All right, time for cross. The reason they bring this up is to take the sting out of like, oh, she's looking to get money. And unlike Cassie, her case is still pending. You're aware there's a motion to dismiss your lawsuit. I have civil lawyers. That's not a good start. You sat with the prosecutors and your allegations have changed. I've been consistent. Okay. You testified he attempted to hit her about the eggs. She told over a story on Friday about how he was holding a skillet and like swung at her and then started chasing around and caught Cassie and hit her with a fist. And Miss Ventura dropped down to fetal position, right? Yes. Did you ever see you heard a pin hit the wall? You didn't see it. I don't recall. Would you agree with me? It's been hard for you to keep your story straight with respect to this egg incident. I told it as close as I could. This is not a good answer. This sounds like I kind of get sketchy on the details a lot. That's a very, very not good answer here, especially to an incident that Cassie never mentioned once. The day after you saw Mr. Combs said people go missing. Yes. In other words, what happened was after she saw that incident of this alleged abuse, she says that the next day Diddy came and said to her, people go missing, i.e. threatened her that if she opens her mouth, people go missing. That's what she had testified to. And that's why she would keep her mouth closed. That she was threatened that if she opens her mouth, she will die. That's how she understood it. Let's do your interview on March 18, 2025. You did not say anything about Combs told you people go missing. This is when she met with the police. I don't recall that. No worries. I'm going to show you a document for the parties only. Isn't it true the first time you said this was a week ago? That's the first time you brought up the whole threat. Would you like me to show you your previous interviews? I know what I said. You said Mr. Combs made a death threat, one that you didn't recall 7 times that you talked about this case? The tone here is much more aggressive than we saw the tone being taken with Cassie, certainly on day 1 and even on day 2, and much more aggressive than they were with Kerry Morgan. The defense is much better when they take this aggressive tone. Much better. And you wonder why they don't take it more. Perhaps they were scared of going after a victim and attacking her. Or perhaps they're actually reflecting that they agree with much of what they're saying, which is not a good thing for Diddy. Because they really don't get very aggressive with them in any of their tone. Let's move to alleged incident before the Central Park concert. You're aware that there was a camera crew, not in the bathroom. You were filmed in the park. Are you aware if their video has been turned over? No. About the guns, you didn't tell the prosecutors about it. I saw guns at Diddy's house. They didn't ask. You never saw Mr. Combs pull a gun out and wave it around, load bullets, or cock it. He just had it. How do you know? How do you know? Cassie said she saw it in the safe. She said she saw it laid out sometimes, but that doesn't mean that she had a much more intimate relationship with Puffy than Dawn Richard. Yeah, I need to stress this. If you could all please hit the like button now, like this is the moment, right now. We're just gonna pause, okay? We're gonna go to just full screen. Just hit the like button now. No, now. No, now. Okay, now you got it. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Did you tell the government you never saw Mr. Combs do cocaine? I don't recall. Your testimony has changed on quite a few things. As time progresses, I remember more. Now, on redirect, they try fixing this up. They're going to try fixing this up on redirect, but this doesn't sound good to a jury. As time progresses, I remember more. Okay. You saw One Stop sell drugs. You saw him take money? Yes. Also, 1 second. Didn't you tell the government you never saw anyone pay him? So you lied, right? No. Okay. Westmoreland continues. It was you who reached out to Mr. Combs to work with him again. Yes. But he threatened you, right? This part I got in here for. Yes, but he threatened. So you're saying he threatened you, but you still reached out to him because you wanted to work with him. So years later, after he threatened to kill you, you said, hey, I want to work with you again. Yes. Okay. The songs you released were here on your own have not reached the level that you were released with Danny Kane and Diddy Dirty Money, right? True. And if you reached out to Mr. Combs to try to make more money, right. Why did you file your civil lawsuit? When I worked for Sean Combs, I had no sleep. The conditions were terrible. She describes them as being very toxic conditions. In every meeting with the government, did you say Mr. Combs beat Mr. Ventura? Yes. This is from the assistant U.S. attorney. This is when they're trying to redirect. So they're trying to explain why it is that now she's going for money. And she said, how, when did your memory has changed? When did these events occur? From 2004 to 2011. You see, this is not here in his thing because this all conversation happens very fast. And that's why, as amazing a job as Inner City Press does, no human can get down all this information quickly enough. So she was asked, when did these events happen between 2004 and 2011? And when did you talk to the government in 2024? Why'd you wait? She's like, I suppressed all that memories. I was trying to forget it. This is not here in his thing, but this is in my notes at this point. And why did you try to forget it? Because the environment was so volatile. And is your memory clearer now? Every day it gets easier by talking to you guys. That's what she said. Like by talking to the government about it, it gets easier for me to remember. And then she was asked, why'd you reach out? To help Kalina Harper, and that she wanted to work with Diddy, and Kalina Harper was not only going to work, that Diddy was only going to work with Kalina Harper if Dawn Richard was involved. So I was a friend of hers, Kalina Harper, so she figured, I want to work with Kalina Harper. On recross, Westmoreland said, so you reached out to Combs to re-engage. You only to have a relationship with Lorianne Gibson, which is another person there. But if I got back together, you'd have to see Mr. Combs more, right? You'd have to go, and the way that, and he'd be there every meeting. You would have to have meetings, and yes, and you would have to sit on planes together, yes, and work out your song material together, yes, and then record together, yes, and with this guy who threatened to kill you, you'd have to travel on planes with him, yes, and do media press junkets, yes, and you have to go on tours, yes, and going on and on about like just what she would have to do, how much time she would have to spend with Diddy. And I want you to know this. I want to just share with you. At a certain point when I was watching this, the viewing room I was in, people were just laughing at Dawn Richard. That's how badly the tone sounded here. They were literally laughing at Dawn Richard, like not believing anything she said. So, yeah, I don't know how much she helped the government's case, and this was definitely the best cross work came from Westmoreland in crossing Dawn Richard. Now, she likely was an easier witness to cross, especially because she changed the story over and over again. It's almost inviting a brutal cross-examination from the defense, but it was brutal. It was like she looked defeated by the time Westmoreland was done with her. It was an obliteration. All right, no further questions, no redirect, and we're done. Okay, break. And then we went to Kerry Morgan. All right. So from here on, I'm just going to give you my own thing. I was here for a little while at this point. And let's just do that. Do a poll on chat opinion on verdict. I really want to plow one through. F. Demon says, if there's not an Epstein connection, then what is the R. Kelly connection? Both like to give golden showers. Okay, let me explain something to you. I am not saying there's no connection to Epstein. That is not what I was saying. I said it's not coming up in this trial. Those are two different things. It's not coming up in this trial because Maureen Comey did not bring charges that relate to blackmailing and all that other sort of stuff, which everyone alleges he engaged in. We don't hear about the countless tapes, the video libraries, which include celebrities and other Hollywood elite purportedly engaging in very illegal conduct with people who are far too young to engaging in, to even knowing about that type of conduct. That's not here. This is all about Cassie and Jane versus Diddy. That's what these charges are. So while the conduct that he engaged in is very similar to the depraved and, oh my God, I hope this guy burns in hell type of conduct that we heard about with Epstein, that's not what this case is about. Unfortunately, I wish it was, but it's not, which is why we're very unlikely to hear any testimony about it. And that's purposeful by the state. The fact that they left those charges out, they could have thrown all these charges in. Could have thrown that in and had a longer case, a much longer case, a 3-month case, where they actually are breaking down all the depraved acts he engaged in. But instead, they said, let's just focus on these two women who he was a monster to. So that's why it's not going to come here. All right. I will throw, before I get to Kerry Morgan, I'll say one more thing. On redirect, the state tried really hard to fix her up by saying, do you have any doubt that he tried hitting Cassie? No doubt. Or that she she dropped to the floor into the fetal position? No doubt. Or that she was dragged upstairs by her hair? No doubt. That you heard the smashing of glass as if it was thrown? And no doubt. Any doubt that he threatened you to keep you quiet? No doubt. So that part no one was laughing at. That part seemed, it was good work by the by Lawgic to try and fix up her testimony. But if the viewing room was any indication, It was locking the barn door after the cows had already gone on to greener pastures, and people were checking out on Dawn Richard. Just saying. Just saying. Kerry Morgan, 39 years old, BFF of Cassie Ventura. All right, I'm just going to read this to you really fast, okay? Because at this point, I was like, I'm not going to write question and answer. This whole thing is a narrative. So I'm basically going to be taking like script notes here as to exactly what Kerry Morgan tells this jury. Let's go for it now. Met Cassie in 2001. We were best friends. Yeah, but we don't speak anymore, not since 2018. Why? Because her boyfriend assaulted me. Oh, and that's where I draw the line on domestic violence. Why are you here today? I was sent a subpoena. I don't want to testify because I moved on with my life and I got nothing to do with any of these people anymore. So I don't want to be here. The government loves that because they're basically like, they're not here because they have an agenda. They're going to be telling you the truth because they have no choice because they were subpoenaed. So that's their ideal setting. We didn't have to pay this person to come here. They're not someone who came running to us. We found them and said, you're going to be testifying. All right. So in 2004, she moves in with Cassie. She was from Buffalo. Cassie was from Connecticut. She was young, and she describes Cassie as being young, fun, successful model, very confident. She didn't drink much. She never used drugs. This is talking about Cassie now. In 2006, she recorded a song called Me and You, which exploded, and she learned that she was dating Diddy in 2007. She saw Cassie and Diddy together very often. They would travel, go to dinner. They went to Las Vegas, Miami, LA, Ibiza, and they would hang out together a lot. It would be the three of them. When Kerry had a boyfriend, they bring the boyfriend along, and all of us did drugs together. We did Molly and X. X would make you feel euphoric. When we did drugs, I did drugs with Cassie, even sometimes without Diddy after that. Opiates and marijuana. What were your thoughts about Diddy when you first met him? I thought he was nice and generous and somewhat intimidating. What happened later? Well, he started having mood swings, and Cassie lost all of her confidence big time. That's her words. Cassie lost her confidence big time as a result of starting to date Diddy. He would talk down to her, criticize her about her looks, her singing, and her behavior and who she talked to. And when the defendant wanted her, would he call you? He would call a few times, sometimes several times, sometimes just a handful, but he would call me all the time trying to find out where Cassie was. It was Christina Coram. Christina Coram was Diddy's chief of staff. Like, we call her KK because Christina's with a K and Coram's with a K. So everyone called her KK. And she would contact us to get in touch with Cassie also. And that was at Diddy's direction. It seemed like, yeah. He spoke with Cassie about Diddy and her music career. Her music and she would Cassie would work really hard on her music, and sometimes she'd be very proud of it, and it would never get put out, and it would never get released, and she would get very frustrated. And who was in charge? Diddy was in charge of her career. Ever seen an assault on Cassie? Did you ever see an assault on Cassie by the defendant Diddy? Here's where we get to the juicy parts. Okay, let's get juicy. Did you ever see an assault? Twice. Twice that I can recall specifically. All right, tell us about those. Once in LA, once in Jamaica. Tell us about the LA story. Well, we're in Hollywood Hills, and Diddy was rented out a place in there, and there was me, and there was Cassie, and Diddy, and Ruben. Who's Ruben? He's a security guard. And I'm the front foyer, and Cassie and the defendant were in the master bedroom, which was like right off to our side there. And I saw her pushing her, but there was a bed that was sort of blocking me. It looked like he was kicking her. I think he hit her. Did Cass do anything in response? No. So I said to Rube, go do something. The freaking security guard is beating her. And how did he respond? He was not going to do anything. No one does anything. No one saves Cassie. Cassie is left up to the mercy of Diddy. I'm waiting for the first white knight to stand up to him. We may not hear from him because, for all I know, that guy is dead. But I'm just joking. I don't know. It could be. Maybe. I don't know. But it seems like all the people who are alive to testify. Talk about framing a narrative. I'm just saying, all the people who testified so far. Let's cover this like a journalist. All the people who are alive, all the people who have testified so far say they never interfered when Cassie was getting beaten by Diddy, and they also they never saw anyone interfere. Everyone was just very intimidated by Diddy, either because they didn't want to get fired or they didn't want to get beaten up, but everyone was intimidated by him. This is very generous of you. Thank you so much. I'm going to blow the horn for you. Cover your ears. There you go. Been relying primarily on your excellent coverage of the trial. I just want to say thank you. That's very thoughtful. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate the very generous super chat. All right. So I said, Rube, go do something. He's like, no. Well, anyway. So she got away when their back was turned, and I went with her, and we ran off and hid. Where'd you hide? By the neighbor's staircase. What do you mean by the neighbor's staircase? We laid down low on the steps, on the concrete steps by the neighbors, where the balcony railing was blocking our bodies, and we just hid down there, whispering to each other. And were they looking for you? Oh, yeah. We heard them, but they didn't see us. How long were you there? 20, 30 minutes that they hid there. It sounds crazy. It's like, what is happening here? Why are you with someone you have to hide from? It's because he's Diddy, I guess. I guess because he's Diddy. And we could hear defendant and Rube driving around trying to find us. Cassie went back to the house. I went back to my hotel. Tell us about Jamaica. All right, so this is January 2013. They didn't give us a time frame on the LA story. I think that was much earlier, but January 2013. So I was in the bar area of the house. Cassie and CV are in the bar area, and then Cassie had to go to the bathroom. And I'm talking to Diddy, and he goes, "She's really taking a long time in the bathroom." So he went to find her. And the next thing I know, I hear a scream. Cassie screaming? Yeah, like a guttural scream. And she ends up coming to the room with Diddy dragging her by her hair. So and he pulls her and is pulling her outside to take her, saying, "We're leaving now." And I went to grab my purse, and he threw her down the steps. It was like a couple of steps, and she fell and hit her head on a brick. And I thought she was knocked out. She seemed knocked out for like a good 20 seconds. So now Diddy and I started arguing, and Cassie got up and ran off into a wooded area. So now Diddy, there's two golf carts there. So Diddy and I each got in different golf carts and headed off in different directions trying to go to the wooded area to find Cassie. Well, I find her first, and I ditched the golf cart somewhere, and we ran and hid in the wooded area. So the whole time I'm going, Cassie, as I'm driving around, and then she came out, and we ditched the golf cart. I don't remember what we did with that, but we ended up hiding in the woods there in a ditch. And how long were you there in the ditch? It felt like hours. And were they looking for you? Oh, yeah. We saw them like driving past us. They were looking for us, but we were just hiding there and just like whispering so they couldn't hear us. And she had a really big bump on her forehead. So there you go. Did you ever see other violence? Other times, yeah, but those, I remember these best. The others were like pushing her and stuff like that she was just, pushing her around. Those are the two incidents that I witnessed that I remember best. Did she ever fight back? Not initially, but later on she started fighting back. Did you ever see any injuries on Diddy? No. No. Let's talk about March 6, 2016. This is when we have the famous incident with the Intercontinental. If you're unfamiliar with this, so this incident, Intercontinental, is a viral video where he is beating on her. I want to see if I can actually pull that up. I've never shared it on this channel. I want to see if I can share the video. So I'm sure it's all over the internet. This is not really a good video. Oh, wow. We got 15-minute, fully unedited. All right. I'm just going to tell you now, this is a little bit disturbing to see. It's a little disturbing, but this is the video they shared with us. That when this is, we got this. This is the first video. We got this on day one. On day one, this is the video. For those of you who have not yet seen it, is there audio here? I don't remember there being very much in the way of audio, but maybe there. I think there was 2 recordings. One had audio, one didn't. Let me see what we got here. And I can tell you what Cassie told us. That's Cassie coming now to the elevator bank. Okay. And she, we don't know this when we're watching this first time. She left a freak off because Diddy had punched her in the face. So she's like, I'm out of here. And she grabbed her hoodie, and now she's putting on her sneakers, her shoes, whatever. I think there's sneakers. I think she called them sneakers. And here she is waiting for her elevator there, and she's like, I'm out of here. I'm leaving, and whatever. Here, there's Diddy, just wearing a towel and socks, grabbing her by the. There you go. There you go. Why are you laying on the floor there? I was just hoping he would just leave me alone. Now he grabs her and starts dragging her down the hall. Now he picked up her bags there. You wouldn't know this from this angle. We're going to see a video from another angle coming soon. At this point, she gets up and goes over to the hotel phone that's right here in the lower corner, and she picks it up to call security. So, and hotel security comes. Now he's got her bags. He took her bags and he takes her bags and throws them back in the room. He sees her there and he basically lets her talk to them. He doesn't want to interrupt while she's talking to security. He is wearing nothing but a towel and socks here. And now he's marching down the hall to their room to basically throw her bags back in the room. And storms back. Now you can see in the mirror. You can see in the mirror up here, like the two of them. It's a little confusing what's happening there. But the phone is hung up now. But he's pacing. Like he looks like he's on drugs. And he probably is, given the nature of how they did their freak offs. And now she's back by the phone. And he's not really happy. There's no more violence witnessed here. What we saw is the extent of the violence. At least that was caught on surveillance camera. Diddy pays the hotel manager $100,000 in a brown paper bag in cash for this video to be deleted. But the guy who testified on day one, Officer Flores, recorded this, which is how we got this. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this. So this is not the original. I think he like took a recording of it. You can see he looks like a raging animal. He looks like a raging animal. Now this is the hallway here. This part over here, this is when she was first leaving, all the way down the end of the hall. This is the elevator bank here. So this is a different angle of her coming down the hallway when she was first leaving. Yeah, he recorded on his cell phone. This is when she was first leaving. And you can see in moments, he's going to come running down the hallway after her. Now, there's another guy in the room there. Here he comes running. Where you think you're going? And that's when he comes and runs and grabs her and starts throwing her around. And you can see he took her stuff, her bags, throws it back in the room, and then comes back to get her. He's like, wait a second. What do you think you're doing? Wearing his pink socks. And you get to see him like sort of like he's like you could tell he's on drugs, right? I mean, because he's so amped up and like raging, unless he just has it really could be just Diddy level anger issues, but he is on drugs here, presumably. They're in the middle of a freak off, and they took tons of drugs during the freak offs. So now he's taking her stuff from her and throwing it back in the room. So at the end of the hall, let me go back into my room, throw it in there, and now come back and get Cassie. Now we know that there's another guy there in the room. We later will learn. The first time we saw this video, we didn't know that. But although Officer Flores commented about that, that there was a guy sitting there, which he thought was just weird. We will later learn that that's Jules, who's a regularly paid escort who was brought to the Intercontinental. You can understand why you see this and you just think to yourself, how does anyone, like, this is just the first of it. You haven't seen the pictures which they shared of her eye swollen, where it looks like there's a golf ball under her eyelid. That's how much her eyelid is swollen. I mean, he's a monster. There's no other way to describe it. The guy's a monster. So, just standing there brooding in this threatening type of way. Anyway, I thought it was important for you to actually see it. She kept calling them pink socks. That's security showing up. That's Officer Flores. He ends up escorting Diddy down there. Diddy does not want to let her go. And he's basically saying she's leaving. And they're walking down here. That's Flores. He's the guy who ended up recording the original surveillance camera. Smartly. Probably made a mint off of it. He's walking down there and basically saying, hey, she's leaving. She's not staying here. And Diddy ultimately consents, but he's having an argument with him about that right now. So according to Flores. So, yeah. So she ends up coming back to get her stuff because she wanted her phone and stuff before she left. And now that Flores is there, it's a little bit safer. She's willing to go back into the place. And he says Diddy offered him $100,000 and he turned him down for the video. And he said no. Someone else sold it for $100,000. This is why that sale of $100,000 is likely why the Intercontinental ended up settling with Cassie for $10 million. Because you sort of look at it, you're like, what did they do wrong? The only thing I can think of they did wrong was, the only thing I can think of that they did wrong was getting rid of the video. Now, there's all sorts of questions. He claims he asked Cassie if she wanted him to call the police, and that she said no. He said he saw that she had a black eye. So here's Cassie coming to get her stuff so she can leave. Yeah, he did break a flower pot, although they say that it wasn't like he was trying to. Like, he knocked it over. He knocked it over during this whole incident. But not that he picked it up and tried smashing it. And there's her getting her bag and saying, I'm out of here. Now, I brought this up now in the context of the Kerry Morgan testimony, because where she's heading right now is home. And in her home is Kerry Morgan. Kerry Morgan reports that she comes back from the Intercontinental on March 6, 2016, and she's got a black eye. But this is pretty much what we need from this video. Now you have seen the Intercontinental video. Okay? So now you understand the story. That video went viral. It's been seen, I don't know, hundreds of millions of times. But a long time ago, it went viral. And they say that it was the linchpin for what started the entire investigation to Diddy. Anyhow, so we're back to Kerry Morgan testifying today. So March 6th, 16th, there was around this time, she didn't want to do the freak off, but they were supposed to, because she said she's having a movie premiere that's coming up, and she didn't want to get worn out and stuff like that. So describing what Cassie looked like when she came back from the Intercontinental, said she was wearing a hoodie and she was slumped down and she had a black eye, and the defendant came to the house 30 minutes later. So he's busy getting dressed right now. When Cassie leaves, he starts getting dressed and he follows her to her house. And she said the defendant was hitting the door with a hammer, pounding on it. And she said, I was terrified. Cassie looked numb. At that point, I really don't think he cared if Diddy went away or came in there and killed her. That's what she testified today. This is talk about someone who's being coerced and compelled. She's so broken that her best friend is looking at her after the Intercontinental incident and thinking that she doesn't know if she'd be totally fine if Diddy would just come in there and finish her. It's awful. It's really awful. FD Man says Diddy all wussy. Also says this trial is worse than the Depp Heard fiasco and beats out Maxwell too. Depravity in all of them, evil. Yes, very, very much so. Thank you for the generous chat. Also, thank you for your generosity, J.S. Schwalbach. Okay. Let's move along here. So what did you do when she came back? Well, I called KK, Christina, because they consider Christina a friend, and D-Rock, who they also considered a friend, to come and get Diddy when he's pounding on the door with a hammer. Did they ever come? I don't know. But eventually he leaves without getting inside. And then 3 hours later, the police come. What happened when the police come? So I opened the door and they pushed me back against the wall and they made me show ID. Cassie refused to show ID. She refused to talk to them and give them any information. They asked about the black eye, and she won't tell them anything. Throughout her entire relationship, she refused to ever talk to anyone unless it was absolutely necessary. The only time she tells anyone about the abuse she's suffering is she gives her mother a heads up when she thought that he was going to release videos, and she didn't want her mother to be shocked by it. But basically, her entire time, she never tells anyone about the freak-offs. She doesn't talk about the violence. She doesn't talk about anything, and she certainly doesn't go to the police. She does not want the police involved, either because she loves him or because she's afraid. And I honestly don't know the answer to that. Like, she's afraid that it'll end her relationship if she goes to the police, or she's afraid that that something far more serious will happen to her if she goes to the police. Did you call this? And there's a text exchange between Kerry and KK, and she said, "Did you ever call the police?" No, she didn't want me to. Cassie never told me why she was at the hotel, so Kerry still doesn't know anything. Like, why are you at a hotel with Diddy instead of coming here? So she never told me, and I didn't know. And any other occasion that they would go to the hotel, objection, sidebar. All right. You often talk to Cassie about leaving Diddy. Yeah, she said she couldn't. Why? Because he had control of everything in her life, her job, her car, her house, everything. Cassie spent a lot of time around Diddy's employees, and they also were considered friends over there. Diddy world was her whole world. So after spending time with Diddy's employees, she wouldn't want to leave Diddy. So every time she would talk to her, she said, I would talk to her about leaving, and then she would go talking to other people in Diddy world, and they would talk her out of it, out of leaving Diddy. So that's potentially harmful to the state in that now she's willingly compliant to some degree. I mean, a little asterisk of that. Let's get to the time he assaulted you, Kerry. All right, so it was in 2018. Cassie and I were listening to music. Now, Cassie testified we were doing drugs. Kerry says we were listening to music. Or else she said there was drugs on the table. And this is a stage when Diddy was trying to stop Cassie from using drugs with Kerry. What we got in the testimony from Cassie was she was saying how Diddy didn't like her doing drugs with anyone but him. And certainly did not, and looked at Kerry as someone she would do drugs at, and grew resentful of that. So Cassie was in the bathroom, and he came in, and this is Kerry's version. He came in, and he's screaming about her cheating, who she's cheating on him with. Did you know who she's cheating on him with? No. At that time, she actually was in a relationship with Alex Fine, who she later would marry and is still married to this day, expecting a baby any minute now. They already have a second child, any minute now. So he's going on about who she's cheating with. And so Ryan was there, which I think is a security guard, and I told him he's losing. I went outside and told him he's losing it. Oh no, and that's when he attacked him. So what happened when he attacked her? So he was choking her, and then he picked up a wooden hanger and hit her in the back of the head right behind her right ear. And she went outside and told Ryan that, Diddy's losing it. And she said she went to urgent care and she had a concussion and dizzy and vomiting. And so that's why she went to urgent care. And then she had her lawyer reach out to Diddy. And she did not file a lawsuit, but Cassie came and paid her $30,000 and had her sign a non-disclosure agreement. And Cassie said to me that she thought I was milking it. Now, they were best friends from 2001 to 2018. This is a month after the hanger incident. Getting hit with the hanger incident. She said, we had a meeting with Cassie in a pizza store, and she comes to me and she has me sign an NDA, And she's like, take the $30,000 and sign the NDA because you're milking this whole thing. And she was livid with Cassie for that. She's like, you got this abusive boyfriend, and he ended up taking his abuse out on me, and now you're telling me I'm milking it. She didn't say this, but that's basically what I took from the story. So when Cassie told her she was milking it, she said, I never spoke to Cassie ever again to this day. So there you go. Then we went to lunch and we have cross-examination. Okay. We'll just do a quick check over in cross-examination. I thought was terrible. The entire tone and style of cross-examination was, we're doing an interview. It's almost like police getting a follow-up statement. That's what they sounded like. The entire tone. And whenever they do this interview style, it doesn't play well. I'm gonna tell you this. Imagine you're a lawyer and you're representing a client, and you got a witness up there who just spent 2.5 hours helping a jury realize that your client is a friggin' monster. Can you say nothing? Can you ask no questions? No, you have to ask questions. So you get up there, so your client, the monster, thinks you're doing something for him. And that's what this felt like. So he's just asking questions about stuff she testified about, and none of it is leading towards anything that seems remotely beneficial to the defense. It's like, oh, okay, tell us about this story. It basically starts off with like, so tell us how you met Cassie. It's like, how is this helpful? Oh, so and she starts talking about we were modeling. Cassie's 2000 and 2001. We both were in high school at the time. Cassie's 15. I'm 16, and then when we both graduated high school, so we decided to move in together in 2004. Until we lived together for a year, and then she moved to, and then you moved to Harlem. No, she moved to Harlem. Okay. And what type of modeling were you doing? Catalog modeling, and and Cassie was dating Ryan Leslie in 2004. He was a music producer, and they were together 2 or 3 years. It seemed pretty serious. I would see Cassie and the defendant when they started dating. I saw them together fairly often. How often? Per month in 2008. Well, at that time I had a boyfriend, so I would say like once or twice a month. And where would you go? Sometimes we were at Diddy's house, sometimes at a studio. We went to Italy and Ibiza, and we would go to Burning Man. We did that 3 times, which is in Reno, Nevada. What is Burning Man? That's what she was asked, which I was wondering the same thing. You all told me it's a music festival. It's a music festival outside of Reno, Nevada. You got to get a camper and bring your own food and basically find your own lodging. And it's a lot of fun that people basically, I guess, do for a weekend down in Reno every May. And tell us about Dallas Austin. Tell us about Lucas White. And how do they know each other? Like, I don't know what we're getting from this. Nothing remotely beneficial. And it goes on and on and on. Just this sort of question. And I'm like, what are we doing here? What are we doing? And then I realized they can't say no questions. So maybe they end up, he ended up establishing a very nice rapport. Sometimes he would say something that would make Kerry laugh. The lawyer for the defense would make a joke and she would laugh. Maybe make themselves more likable. There's nothing. They had nothing to hit Kerry with. That's what I took from this. You have nothing to hit her on her story about. They try at the very end to find distinctions. You said this, you said that, and she's like, I don't even see what the difference is between that. You'll see. There's nothing. He did not ask a single question about the assault that Kerry testified about in Los Angeles or in Jamaica. Nothing. In fact, that actually comes up on redirect, because on redirect, when it comes up, he's like, I didn't ask any questions about that. How's she being? That's beyond the scope. And she's like, well, they said that it was about jealousy, so we want to try and establish that. And judge overruled the objection. So I'll allow it. Anyhow. So studio visits, and the defendant put Cassie in touch with other music artists who were more advanced in their career, didn't he? Yeah, there was Kid Cudi, who she later would date. and Lil Wayne, and then they start listing off all these different artists who I never heard of before, and you probably know all of them, but I don't know any of them, and they were throwing out names way too fast, so I didn't get them down. But a whole list of other artists who Cassie recorded with, and the defendant was defendant jealous? Yes. Was that stressful to you? It stressed me out because it involved me. He thought Cassie danced with Chris Brown. I don't remember that. Okay, well, I can't ask you about that then. Cassie complained in text about he was jealous of Chris Brown. I don't remember. What about Michael B. Jordan? Did she form a relationship with Michael B. Jordan that made Diddy jealous? Now, the defense seems to think that justifying Diddy's actions as he was jealous or on drugs somehow serves as a tonic here. I guess you can say he doesn't have mens rea to control, but that's not the violence. Like, I don't understand how that excuses beating the snot out of Cassie. But they seem to think that this is helpful to them. So this comes up a lot. They want to stress that it was jealousy. I don't know how that helps. I really don't. I'm sitting here, I'm racking my brain, and the defense and the prosecution seems to try to keep establishing it's not because of jealousy, it's not because of drugs. And I'm like, I don't know why you're arguing about this. He's a monster. I don't care. Who cares that he's jealous? Oh, he's jealous. Oh, so that's totally fine. You're giving your girlfriend a black eye. Totally fine. What do you want? He's on drugs. Totally fine. All right. So we became friends with Michael B. Jordan. She spoke to Michael B. Jordan before and after she went to South Africa, where she was filming a movie. I don't remember the name of the movie. You went down to South Africa with her? Yeah. How long were you there? 2 weeks. Who was Mia there also? Mia's was an employee of Diddy. She was there while we were there. Tell us about the nature of relationship with Michael B. Jordan and Cassie. I don't know. I know they weren't dating, but I don't know anything more than that. But he was jealous of Michael B. Jordan. He thought she was trying, and ultimately she told Michael B. Jordan when she came back she's not talking to him anymore. And Cassie never was with Michael B. Jordan. Talk about Gina. Gina was a big problem. That's how she said it. Gina was a big problem. Okay, I like that. Explain what you mean by a big problem. Well, they had a full-on relationship, and she just wouldn't go away. Now, this is all interesting stuff. To me, this is like interesting, like as far as now that we're learning so much about their lives. So I feel like I'm like following the gossip story of the love life of Cassie and Diddy and all the other interesting, like, triangles there, which I feel gross that I'm actually starting to feel vested in this story. So apparently Gina was a problem. A problem. Why was that? Oh, she wouldn't go away. She was a little girl. This got the defense very nervous. Wait, she was a grown woman. Well, no, when I say she was a little girl, I mean she acted like a little girl. But can you please state on the record, this defense, can you please state on the record that Gina was a grown woman? Yes, she was a grown woman. She was younger than us, and she acted like a little girl. But it was pretty funny. Like, defense counsel is like, oh my God. She's not a little girl. Jury. She's not a little girl, I promise you. I know you heard about Gina a lot. She's not underage. Please say, for the jury's sake, that she was a grown woman, an adult. I'm pretty sure he got Gina pregnant. This came out there. The entire room was like, what? What? He got Gina pregnant? No one knew about this. But the problem was that he was together with Gina romantically for many, many years. Yes. And he kept telling Cassie that he's ending it, and he never did. So she was a problem. And it made Cassie very, very angry. Got her very upset. It felt like she was cheating on Cassie, and Cassie didn't want to talk. So when we were in South Africa, she did not want to talk about Diddy at all. Now that's in the fall of 2015. Were you asked to cover up and don't tell the defendant where I am? No, not really. I'm going to show you an exhibit here. Oh, okay. I don't know. That never happened. I didn't remember that. I guess there's an exhibit, a text message where Cassie said, if he calls, don't tell him where I am. It's like, maybe that happened once. I certainly don't remember it. Okay. Let's talk about March 6, 2016. That he's banging on the door with a hammer. LAPD show up. When did they show up? 3 hours later. Oh, just in the nick of time. That was the joke from the lawyer, and she laughed. She's like, it really did feel like it was forever, like afterwards. And she had an injury. You said she had a black eye. It must not have been noticeable. She's like, no, it was very noticeable. So I opened the door. They pushed me against the wall, and Cassie stayed on the couch saying nothing. How far from Cassie were the LAPD? Like 5 feet. And her eye was visible. She was wearing a hoodie, but they could see her eye. Yeah, and the lighting was fine. Yeah. And so they didn't ask what happened. Oh, they did. They asked her what happened. She just wouldn't tell them. She wouldn't tell them anything about what happened, and she wouldn't even give them ID. And tell us about KK. Well, she's the chief of staff. Nice girl. Right hand to Diddy. Friend of ours. So is D-Rock. He's also a security guard who's a friend of ours. Me as an assistant. She's got tons of energy, which is what you need if you're going to be his personal assistant, because he's on you all the time. And we weren't as close with her. And tell us about the hangar incident. That was in your house? No, it was in Cassie's house. And you haven't spoken to her since? I have not spoken to Cassie in 7 years. I stopped, and you stopped speaking to. I stopped speaking to her because she was saying that I was overreacting. I draw the line. That's what she said. I draw the line at abuse. But yet you reached a settlement agreement with Cassie, not with Diddy. It seemed like the defense was trying to go for, this was a fight you had with Cassie. It wasn't really Diddy. It was Cassie. And that's why you signed this agreement with Cassie. You never signed an agreement with Diddy. She's like, no, Diddy paid the money. But it was signed with Cassie. Yeah, Cassie was there, but it was Diddy paid the money. She offered me money to sign the NDA. And where were you? It was in pizza shop in West Hollywood, and you accepted it? Yes. You still never reached out to her, though. She wasn't the one. The thought process of the defense makes sense here. They're like, why are you not talking to her? It makes sense if the two of you got into direct fight. That's why you wouldn't be talking to her. That also explain why she's signing. She's the one coming to an NDA, and Diddy seems completely uninvolved. The point they're trying to get at here is, we don't think that Diddy attacked you. We think Cassie attacked you. Maybe it was some drug thing, maybe something else. But that's why you're not talking to Cassie, and that's why Cassie signed a deal with you. And she said, no. He said, you never reached out to her in the last 7 years. And she's like, she never reached out to me either. Okay. Let's talk about Banna. Was there a period he wanted to get her off of Banna was another mutual friend of Cassie and Kerry. They used to do drugs together. Banna basically would show up with the drugs. Was there a period when Diddy wanted to get Cassie off drugs? Yes. Would Banna bring you and Cassie drugs? Yes. The defense said, I don't like her bringing drugs. I don't remember that. All right. Now let's show you some pictures. You recognize these people? Yes. Why are you showing these pictures? I don't know. We still don't know. You're not going to get an answer to that tonight, because no one knows why he was showing these pictures, but showing pictures of some guy named Eli and another Rob Holiday. And this is the only part where they made any headway during the 2 hours of cross-examination, or hour and a half of cross-examination. So Diddy World is chaos, but it's a lot of fun, isn't it? Yeah, it is. And you're a very loving bunch. Yeah. Let me show you some pictures of all you guys smiling and happy. You and Cassie and Diddy. You all seem like, and other folks here, you all seem like you really like each other. Oh, we did. I mean, I didn't love everyone in that picture, but I liked a lot of them. And here's a picture from Burning Man. Yeah. And you had fun. Yeah. A lot of fun, right? Yeah, we had a lot of fun. And Cassie loved Diddy, didn't she? Yes, very much. And Diddy loved Cassie. Yes, very much. Did you try to help him be a better person? There's a text message where she sent him a poem. We never got anywhere with that. Why'd you send the poem? I don't remember. I don't remember anything about the poem. There were times you thought they should try to work things out. Yes, but most of the time, no. She was very emphatic about that. Yes, there were times, but most of the time, no. So that was like sort of a little landmine that he walked. He pushed a little too far about how much fun and how all the good times, which you can understand defense trying to say, look, when you're watching this trial, you're going to you're probably imagining that every 10 minutes he's beating the hell out of her. And this was just like, how the heck are you staying there? The point is, these were isolated incidents which accumulated over a period of 11 years, which I think that's the only positive that we got from this. But that could have been 5 minutes of questions. And if you leave that as only 5 minutes of questions, this is poor strategy from the defense, in my personal opinion. If all you ask about is you had fun times, lots of fun times. Here's pictures of you all happy going to Burning Man, and he loved her and she loved him, and lots of fun. You all really liked each other until sometimes there would be incidents that pop up. That would be a way more effective cross to me, because this got lost. This was all just lost in an hour and a half. That there's 3 minutes there, which is helpful. Let's talk about the hanger incident. You were using drugs at the time. Not that I recall. Were they on the table? No. What did he say? He said, who's she cheating with? And she was cheating? Yes. Now they try getting her and conflicting her story. You said you went to urgent care in your testimony, but you told the police you went to the hospital. Yeah, I don't really see a difference. This is Morgan. Kerry Morgan. He goes, I don't know what I told him, but honestly, I don't see a difference much of a difference between urgent care and a hospital, but it was urgent care. I don't really see much of a difference. And he's like, yeah, I got that. All right. You also told him you were bleeding. No, I didn't. Shows a report. He's like, I don't remember saying hospital, but yeah. And now we get the photos. And did you take photos of your injury? I took them, but I don't have them anymore. The government subpoenaed your phone? No. All right. And here's a picture at the Met Ball. And then you stop speaking with all of them. Yes. All right. Done with cross. Redirect. Defendant ever served you a subpoena? Because they asked, the government serve a subpoena on your phone records? No. So that's what the defense had asked. So now the government gets back up and says, did the defendant ever serve you a subpoena on your phone? No. I don't know why they got into that whole subpoena on the phone thing. I don't get that. Tell us about the LA the LA incident. And she recounts what happened in the LA and hiding on the steps. Was that argument about jealousy? No. Not that I remember. And he pushed her down. She banged her head on a brick in Jamaica. Yeah. Was that argument about jealousy? No. It was about the fact that she was taking too long in the bathroom. So I guess the government was pleased that they could defeat the narrative that every time there's a fight, it's over jealousy or drugs, because here's a time that she's spending too long in the bathroom, and she basically gets dragged out by her hair, screaming gutturally, and thrown into a brick. And that's the end of it. No further recross, and we're done with Kerry Morgan. I felt that the state, now just to surmise what I got here, I felt that what the state did here with Kerry Morgan was very effective. I think they did a good job. I think they got out good testimony here, helping tell out more stories that we can actually picture in our own mind's eye of Diddy treating Cassie monstrously, and people seeing the toxicity of his abuse, and that she's not fighting back. She had described how she was laying in a fetal position. That's a recurring theme. That Diddy's angry and Cassie's in a fetal position, which is your classic control, just like you saw in that video. Just laying there, like, just stop hitting me. I'll tell you this before I get to David James, who spent a half hour or 40 minutes on the stand and gave us a lot of info. this pass, which I can now try to renew now that I've got 6 days of videos to talk about and share that for my thing. I actually was looking to get an upgrade where I can get the same pass that Inner City Press has, because one of the things that happened when I went to the courthouse today is I spoke with a security guard, and I was talking to him about how I can get into the courtroom, and he's like, "You got to show up here like at 4 a.m." He's like, "Wait, you're not in-house press, are you?" And I was like, "What's that?" And that's what Inner City Press is. He's in-house press for the courthouse. How do I get that? He said, "Go to the 8th floor." So I went to the 8th floor and I said, "How do I become in-house press?" And they said, "There's a 6 to 12 month waiting list." I said, "Start me up." The journey of 12 months only begins with the first day. So I said, let's do it. Let's do it. She's like, "You have to live in New York City." And you have to report on more than one trial a year. But here's an email, and you can email them and they can give you more information. So I don't think I'm going to end up getting it. But that's how he gets a phone in there. That in-house press gets all sorts of special privileges from the federal court. Okay. Moving forward. David James. Mr. James, why are you here testifying today? Because I got a subpoena. And what were you told about your testimony? That I need to tell the truth. Great. What was your job with respect to the defendant? I was his personal assistant from 2007 to 2009. And how did you hear about this job? Well, there's an article in the New York Times. I applied multiple times. And who interviewed you? A woman named Vashta. She was the senior vice president. He started crying at this point. I don't know why. I don't understand that. But I have to report it because it happened. I don't know why. Tell us about what she told you when you first showed up here. Vashta said to me, there's a big picture of Sean Combs up on the wall where I went to apply. And she said, I pointed the picture and she said, "This is Mr. Combs' kingdom. We are all here to serve in it." Now, some of you were like, so? It just helps the RICO claim that he's the head of an enterprise where everyone here is his minions. That when you show up to work for Diddy, that the senior vice president tells you, this is Diddy's kingdom. We're all here to serve him. All right. What did you have to do to get the job? This I thought was cool. Did you work hard to get the job? Yes, I worked very hard. I kept sending my resume and faxing it and mailing it and sending it because I really wanted this job. Okay. And how did you get it? Well, you have to take a test. All the applicants had to take a test. What was the test? It's like there were a lot of things we had to do on this test. Like you had to be able to create a calendar. And they would say, here's a list of 30 things that Diddy wants done tomorrow. Create a calendar over the next week. Create a calendar. And we would need to do research to find out when he was supposed to be making this appearance or that appearance. And the idea was to show that we were, and then create, a spreadsheet calendar for him. Then there was another question. They said, create a spreadsheet which shows if he wants to rent a yacht. Diddy wants to rent a yacht in St. Tropez. So how would list off all the different options he has for renting a yacht in St. Tropez and how you would get that done. This is actually pretty good interview questions. Like this is a practical application. I actually think it's a pretty intelligent way. I'm like, okay, you know what? You really want this job. A lot of people really want this job. Show us how good you would be at doing it. And he said that Diddy took applicants. He goes, they gave this to us on Friday. I had it done by Monday. They told us to get it done in a week. I turned it on Monday. They said, you have the rest of the week to do it. He said, no, I'm finished. And Diddy really liked that. Diddy really liked that. Is that really true? That's terrible.
Having watched how people treated Joe, well, longer than some of you have already guessed, so this won't surprise you at all. But I have the same cancer that Joe Biden has. So I also have prostate cancer that has also spread to my bones. But I've had it longer than he's had it. Well, longer than he's admitted having it. So my life expectancy is maybe the summer. I expect to be checking out from this domain sometime this summer. Now, some of you have already guessed, so this won't surprise you at all. Having watched how people treated Joe Biden when the diagnosis came, people are really cruel. They're really bad. And I was expecting, and of course this can happen, people are going to say it's because I got the COVID shot. There's no indication that that makes a difference. People are going to say it's something I brought on myself. They're going to say it's because I lived a bad life. I don't know. But people are going to be really, really terrible. So I wanted to reduce the number of months or weeks. I don't know what I have left, weeks or months. I wanted to reduce the time that people were being terrible to me online because it's going to be kind of hard to spend any time online. All of my enemies, in other words, people who are Democrats mostly, are going to come after me pretty hard. So, I have to put up with that. But I'm ready for that. You should know, well, if you didn't already know, I am unusually mentally tough. So while this could be much worse, for some people, I suppose, I'm handling it quite well. The pain is tough. I mean, really tough. But the mental part, I got that under control. And I can see in the comments that some of you are having a tough time with it. But remember, nothing lasts forever. Nothing lasts forever. So I hope you don't mind that I hid it from you. I wanted as many normal months as I could get. Now, many of you are going to ask me a lot of questions. You're going to say,
Normally, when we say a prayer for someone's health in Hebrew, we sort of need some reference to my name. And there's a whole formula which was really part of either private prayer or it's done if we're going to use like God's actual name, or it's done in a public setting. We need to have 10 men. Those are the most common ways that we say prayers for the sick. But it would basically be Yitzhak Nefesh and Kino Kino. Just let me hear Refuah, Shlem Neshmai, Refuah Nefesh, Refuah Aguf, Chola, Scott Adams. So Shar Cholis. It's really terrible. It's very, very unfortunate. He's a very intelligent, very well thought out, well reasoned individual. Yeah, give me a moment.
having watched how people treated Joe Biden.
Okay. All right. Let me finish up here. I genuinely am a huge fan of his work. I think he's got a really sharp mind. And there are times like he said something, I was like, wow, that's a real, it's happened numerous times. And there's not many people I would say that about. They said something, but I was, wow, that's a really great point. It really like sends the message home. I'll share one in particular. And he was talking about the 2020 election, and he's like, they spent the last 4 years telling us that Trump is Adolf. We always hear this thought, like, would you, if you could kill Adolf's baby, would you? And some people would, some people wouldn't. But if I told you go back to 1933 Germany and rig an election and steal it, would you? Everyone says, of course. In fact, I would go so far as to say you're immoral if you don't. You're a very immoral, evil person if you don't try and steal that election and keep him from retaining office. You're a horrible person. So that being the case, if they didn't kill themselves trying to steal this election, would that not show that they're all really evil after spending 4 years telling us that how evil Trump is? So of course they bent over backwards trying to steal it. And when they're claiming that they weren't trying to, they're basically saying we're really evil people. That's what they're trying. No, trust us because we're really evil people. Either one way or another, we're another here. And I was like, that's a phenomenal point. It's a really phenomenal point. Anyway. The biggest name to tell me I was wrong about Dan and Cash was Tracy Beans. And I was like, if you think that he's telling the truth, if they're really telling us the truth, and he really, really, really committed suicide despite all the stuff that we see that makes us think that can't be, and you care about people genuinely believing you, you should be coming forward with the entire. You can't tell us when you know that no one's going to believe you. They know everyone's going to be like, that's crap. Ask yourself this: why do so many people care about the death of Jeffrey Epstein? Because we have all these questions about the life of Jeffrey Epstein. Meaning, who's connected to the Clintons? Is he connected to here? Is he connected to there? Where do you get his money? Is he being run by some, triple letter agency? Who's he blackmailing? What happened to the tapes? We have all these different questions. How many girls were there? How did he get that sweetheart deal? What did Acosta hear that made him, go from charging him into basically dropping the charges, but not really technically dropping them, but and giving him immunity for Ghislaine? What happened? It has to be that there's some agency that was involved. Which agency was it? Who was he blackmailing? Who was he extorting money from? All these different things. They could have said he really died by suicide, but this is stuff you didn't know about his life. This is what we found out. We found out that he was being run by the feds. And that was happening since 1992. We go back through our records. We see, there's a whole Jeffrey Epstein file going back to 1992 where he was an operative. That's what you do. That's transparency. You're telling us, we're going to tell you this hokey story that we know you're not going to believe about his death, but this is really what happened. And to show you that we're being really transparent, this is how sick our own government was in dealing with Jeffrey Epstein while he was alive. That's if you're really being transparent. And if you're not willing to tell us that, why should I believe that you're being genuinely transparent when you come and tell me that this hokey death of his is reality? And no one has an answer for that because the questions I'm asking are very obvious. The only answer I get back from anyone is, but it's Dan and Cash. How can you question them? And that's what they're counting on. They're counting on is Dan and Cash. How can you question them? The broken jawbone, which is way too much weight, and then you tell us there's no evidence. It takes 300 pounds of pressure. The guy was 100 pounds too light to break his own jaw. If he had jumped off the top of the thing, banged his head on the top, and come crashing down, he would not have that much pressure, enough pressure to break his jawbone. The only way that can happen is if there's another person in there who weighs enough to basically, has to be any adult, grab him about the waist, and then just, jumping downward with him, lifting their own legs out from underneath them to sort of yank him down. That's how it happens. Anyway, let me get back here into testimony of David James. We got a little sidetrack there. Little sidetrack. It's a bit sidetracked. Diddy, wussy, why do you keep sending me that? Oh, you only sent that once. What happened here? All right. I'd very much appreciate if you could all hit like and subscribe while you're here. It's a big deal to me. It's really, really helpful. Really, really helpful. I'm getting back to my 102,000. Getting back what YouTube has stolen from me. Okay. Let's go. I need to get some sleep. I got to wake up like at 6:45 in the morning. All right. So I was telling you how you get the job to be his personal assistant. That's where he met Dia and the defendant. Okay. So now remember, part of the reason we're fleshing out all the different responsibilities he has is in order to give explanation that now he can talk. He's in a position that people should come to him talking about Diddy abusing Cassie because he's overseeing fixing things. He's literally described himself as being Diddy's right-hand man. He starts going through different people who worked for him. There's Dia as the chief of staff, and his duties were to make the environment comfortable for Diddy by his side every day, all day. You have to arrive before he wakes. You have to have a folder of all his layout for what he's going to do that day. You have to have his artwork ready for him to review. You have to have his business schedule ready for him. You have to have clippings from all the news. You have to have his breakfast ready for him, and that's when you can wake him. Then you have to go with him to meetings and set that up and go to dinner in studio. And then 30 minutes before, what your hours? I would work from 30 minutes before he woke until 3 o'clock in the morning. 20-hour days, 6 to 7 days a week. What were you paid? $70,000. 20 hours, 120 hours a week, $70,000. Yeah, take care of advancing locations. Yes, that means I have to set up places so it's comfortable for Diddy when he gets there. Like if he goes on the Oprah Winfrey show, so that he has certain things he likes set up in the green room there. I have to make sure that's all set up and that's all going to be properly arranged. His hotel rooms, did you have to make sure those were okay? Oh, start getting to the freak off rooms. So I was based wherever he was. And if he went to, he would go during that time. He traveled a lot between New York City, Miami, and LA. And which security would come with him, and he listed off Uncle Paulie, Bonds, D-Rock, and a driver, Malik. And what weapons did you ever see them carry? Legal weapons? Yes. We'll start there. A knife. I saw Uncle Paulie carry a knife, a switchblade. What about illegal weapons? I never saw them carrying illegal weapons. Okay. But security would regularly say to me, stay in your lane. What does that mean? It means mind your job and don't get into other business. That was a big deal, which you learned early on when you're working for Diddy. Stay in your lane. One of the things I should tell you about David James is he's white. And everyone else who seems to work for him is black. This is the only white face. I think Cassie might be white. I'm not even sure what race she is. I assume she's white. But this is the only employee that I think we've seen yet who's white. It's not surprising to me. I assume that all his employees are black. Which is why this is relevant when they're saying stay in your lane. That I think the security basically, I think this is where there's a certain tribalism which may kick in. This is my own personal read, not something that came in testimony. Just sharing that. They go through other household staff. There was Chef Jordan, who was his personal chef. What about his girlfriends? Tell us about his girlfriends. Well, Kim Porter was his main girlfriend. Who else was there? There was Sarah, there was Tara, there was Yana, there was Cassie. Oh, okay. Where'd you meet Cassie? In Miami. And tell us about that trip. Well, defendant rented a yacht, and he said, I'm trying to impress her. It was very important to him that he wanted to impress Cassie. This is important. This is helpful. It shows he had a whole agenda here, perhaps, as we see coming up in a moment. You ever talked to Cassie? Twice. Tell us about that. Well, for one time we were on Star Island, and she said this whole life is crazy, which I took as a bad thing that she was saying. So I said, why not get out? And she said, I can't get out. Diddy controls my life, all my money, my salary, my house, my car, my allowance. My career. He controls everything. I can't get out. That's helpful to the state. Another time I was talking to him, and she was telling me about a track list of music that she was very proud of, that she thought was great work that she had produced. And she was so happy, so happy as she was talking to me about the different songs that she had. Oh, yeah? Whatever happened to those songs? Oh, never released. None of them. It was like, he's such a freaking jerk. He's such a jerk. You couldn't release him. You couldn't. One album. She's there for 10. One album. No. If it bombed, would it hurt you? One album. She's so happy about it. Such a jerk. He's such a jerk. He's such a jerk. You ever talk with Diddy about Cassie? Yes, I did. No, yes, I did. I was talking about his girlfriends, and he said to me, Kim's doing good. Cassie she's also good. She's right where I want her. Say anything else? He said, yeah, she's very moldable. And you ever see any disagreements? Yes, Cassie wanted to get into modeling. Diddy didn't like that. Diddy did not want her going into modeling. She was a model when you met her. She had a whole modeling career. No, Diddy did not want her modeling. That's not something he was going to okay. And then we ran out of time. This is a good time for us to break. That's what the state said, and so we broke. What this means is I have to wake up at 6:45 in the morning so I can try getting there at 9 o'clock and catch the balance of this testimony. It's 12:37 right now, which means if I fall asleep in the next 8 minutes, I have 6 hours of sleep. So, without any further ado, I'm going to say to you, please make sure if you're here, you like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Check out my videos where I do recaps, and I will see you all tomorrow. I'll be dropping a short, dropping 2 videos, and dropping 2 live streams. I basically spend my entire life talking into a camera and watching trials and running back and forth to New York City. That's all I do now. And it's the best job in the world. Eat your heart out, David James. Eat your heart out. Till tomorrow, good night and Godspeed.